The crystal towers of Zephyr Prime gleamed like diamonds in the soft light of their twin suns. The city sang with gentle melodies as the Zephyrians went about their daily lives. These beautiful beings looked like living glass sculptures, their bodies catching and reflecting light in rainbow patterns. They moved with grace, their feet barely touching the ground as they floated through their peaceful world. Commander Lyrith stood in the highest tower, watching her people below. Her crystalline form hummed with worry as she looked at the data. Screens around her. The readings were bad. Very bad. A massive fleet was coming toward their world. And it was not friendly. The Korthok Empire had found them. Lyrith had heard the stories about the Korthoks. They were huge, brutal creatures covered in thick armor plates. They conquered worlds and took prisoners to work in their mines until they died. The Korthoks had destroyed dozens of peaceful civilizations across the galaxy. They were coming. For Zephyr Prime. The door to the command center opened with a soft chime. Elder Vexan floated in, his ancient form glowing with dim light. He was the oldest of their kind, over 3,000 years old. His voice was like wind chimes when he spoke. "The long-range sensors have confirmed it," he said sadly. 23 large warships and over 100 smaller vessels. They will arrive in 4 days. Lyrith felt her light dim with fear. Many Korthoks. Our computers estimate over 50,000 soldiers. Maybe more. Elder Vexan moved closer to the viewing window. They sent us a message an hour ago. Lyrith already knew what the message would say, but she had to hear it. Tell me, they want us to surrender completely. All Zephyrians will become slaves. They want to strip mine our crystal formations and use our bodies to power their machines. The Elder's voice cracked like breaking glass. If we refuse, they will destroy our cities from orbit. The Zephyrians had no weapons. Their entire civilization was built on art, music, and harmony with nature. They had never needed to fight anyone. Their planet was far from the major space lanes, and they had lived in peace for thousands of years. They had healing technology and beautiful music, but no guns or warships. "What about the Galactic Council?" asked Lyrith. "Can they help us?" Elder Vexan shook his head. "I sent a plea to them yesterday. They said they are very sorry, but they cannot risk war with the Korthok Empire. They suggested we surrender to save lives." Lyrith felt anger rise in her chest, making her glow brighter. "So they will just let us die?" "The Council is afraid of the Korthoks. Most species in the galaxy are afraid of them." The Elder paused, then spoke more quietly. "But there is one species that the Korthoks fear." Lyrith turned to face him. "Who?" "The humans." The word made Lyrith shiver. Every being in the galaxy had heard stories about humans. They came from a death world called Earth, where everything tried to kill everything else. The humans had survived by becoming the most dangerous predators on their planet. They fought with weapons that could destroy mountains. They never gave up, even when they were dying. Most aliens called them Deathworlders and tried to avoid them. The few times humans had fought in space, they had won battles against impossible odds. They were creative, stubborn, and completely crazy in battle. But they were also far away from Zephyr Prime, and no one knew if they would help strangers. "The humans barely know we exist," said Lyrith. "Why would they risk war with the Korthoks for us?" "I do not know," admitted Elder Vexan, "but I have heard stories. They helped the Centauri colonies when pirates attacked them. They rescued miners from the Vega system when their ships broke down in space. The humans seem to care about other species, even ones they do not know." Lyrith walked to her command chair. Around her, other Zephyrians worked at their stations, their forms glowing with stress, as they all knew what was coming. In 4 days, the Korthoks would arrive. A peaceful world of Zephyr Prime would become a slave planet, and their beautiful civilization would end. Unless ... "Send a message to Earth," she ordered, the communications officer. A young Zephyrian named Kareth looked up in surprise. "Commander, we do not have contact protocols with humans. We do not even know which frequency they use. Use all frequencies. Send it everywhere, until someone answers." Lyrith sat down heavily in her chair. Record this message." The room fell silent, except for the soft humming of machines. All the Zephyrians stopped their work to listen. They knew this might be their last hope. Lyrith spoke clearly into the recording device. "This is Commander Lyrith of the Zephyrian people on the planet Zephyr Prime in the Kepler 442 system. We are a peaceful species. We have no weapons and no army. Korthak Empire is coming to destroy our world and enslave our people. It will all die in 4 days." She paused, trying to find the right words. "We know your species is powerful and far from here. We know you have no reason to help us. But we have heard stories that humans sometimes help others, even strangers. If there is any mercy in your hearts, please help us. We are running out of time." The message was sent out into space at light speed. It would take hours to reach the nearest human outpost, and days to reach Earth. The Zephyrians did not know if anyone would hear it. They did not know if humans would care about their small, peaceful world. But it was their only chance. As the message traveled through the darkness of space, Lyrith looked out at her beautiful city one more time. The crystal towers still sang their gentle songs. Children still played in the floating gardens, or people still believed in peace and beauty. In 4 days, all of that might be gone forever, unless the humans answered their call. The message from the Zephyrians reached Earth's Deep Space Communication Center at exactly 14:32 hours. Lieutenant Amy Walsh was monitoring the long-range channels when the alien transmission came through. She had been expecting routine reports from mining ships and trade vessels. She was not expecting a cry for help from a species she had never heard of. Amy played the message 3 times before she understood what she was hearing. The voice was musical, almost like singing, but the words were clear. A peaceful alien race was about to be destroyed. They were asking humans for help. She immediately called her commanding officer. "Sir, you need to hear this right now." Within 30 minutes, the message was being played in the Pentagon. Admiral Jake Morrison sat at the head of a long table, filled with military officers. His gray hair and lined face showed the experience of someone who had fought in 3 major wars. He listened to the Zephyrian plea without saying a word. When the message ended, the room was quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Species they had never met was about to die, and they were asking Earth for help. "How long do we have?" asked Admiral Morrison. Captain Lisa Carter checked her tablet. She was young for a captain, only 35, but she had earned her rank fighting pirates in the outer colonies. "The message took 18 hours to reach us. They really have 4 days? We have less than 3 days now." "Where's this Kepler 442 system?" asked Commander Alex Rodriguez. He was known for his quick thinking and aggressive tactics. His ship, the UES Retribution, was one of the fastest in the fleet. The navigation officer pulled up a star map. "It's 1 to 7. It's light years from Earth. Our fastest ships can make the jump in about 6 hours using maximum warp drive." Admiral Morrison stood up and walked to the map. He studied the location of the Zephyrian system. So it's far from any human colonies, in a part of space they rarely visited. These aliens had no connection to Earth. Helping them would mean risking human lives for complete strangers. "What do we know about the Korthoks?" he asked. Intelligence Officer Karen Brooks opened her files. "They're bad news, sir. The Korthok Empire has conquered 47 worlds in the last century. They're big, heavily armored, and they fight with overwhelming force. They capture entire populations and use them as slave labor in their mines. Their fleet composition, they usually attack with 20 to 30 large warships. Heavy armor, big guns, but slow and not very maneuverable. They rely on fear and superior numbers to win battles." Colonel Danny Walsh leaned forward. He commanded the Marines, and his job was ground combat. "What about their soldiers?" "Each Korthok soldier is about 8 feet tall and weighs over 400 pounds. They wear thick armor and carry energy weapons. They're tough, but they're not used to fighting enemies who fight back hard." Admiral Morrison nodded slowly. He had made hard decisions before, but this was different. The Zephyrians were not human allies. They were not strategic partners. They were just innocent people who were about to die. "Sir," said Captain Carter, We could assemble a rescue fleet in 4 hours. The 7th Fleet is conducting exercises near Mars. We could redirect them immediately. How many ships? Asked the Admiral. 47 warships, 12 carriers, and full marine support. About 200,000 personnel total. Commander Rodriguez smiled grimly. The Korthoks have never fought humans before. They have no idea what they're getting into. Admiral Morrison thought about the message they had received. Zephyrian commander had sounded so hopeful, so desperate. These were people who had never hurt anyone, who just wanted to live in peace. Now they were facing slavery and death. He thought about his daughter back home. She was about the same age as some of the younger officers in the room. What would he want someone to do if she was in danger and asked for help? We're going, he said simply. The room erupted in activity. Officers started making calls and sending orders. Within minutes, alarms were sounding on ships throughout the solar system. The largest human fleet ever assembled was being called together. For a rescue mission, Captain Carter was the first to leave the meeting. She ran to her ship, the UES Defiance, and found her crew already preparing for departure. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Ben Parker, was studying intelligence reports about Korthok battle tactics. What do you think, Ben? She asked. They're used to fighting people who give up easily, he said. Big, slow ships that try to scare enemies into surrendering. They've never fought anyone who hits back harder when they get hurt. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez looked up from his engine diagnostics. The Defiance is ready for anything, Captain. We can push the engines to 120% if we need to. On the EU's Retribution, Commander Rodriguez was talking to his weapons officer, Kelly Adams. She was one of the best gunners in the fleet, with perfect scores on every combat simulation. How many missiles do we have? He asked. Full load, sir. 200 ship killers and 500-point defense rounds. Plus, our railguns are loaded and ready. Colonel Walsh was preparing his Marines for what might be brutal ground combat. His best soldiers were gathering their equipment and weapons. Sergeant Nina Foster was checking her explosive charges. It could blow a hole through a battleship's hull if she needed to. Corporal Matt Johnson was cleaning his sniper rifle. He held the record for the longest confirmed kill in low gravity. How many Korthoks are we expecting, Colonel? Maybe 50,000, Walsh replied. Matt smiled coldly. That's not nearly enough. As the human fleet prepared to leave Earth, news of the mission spread through the military. Every soldier, sailor, and Marine knew what they were doing. Were risking their lives for aliens they had never met. But that did not matter. Someone had asked for help, and humans always answered that call. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Justice, watching his ships from across. The solar system joined the fleet. Destroyers from Mars, cruisers from the asteroid belt, carriers from the outer colonies. They were all coming together for one purpose. All ships report ready for departure, announced his communications officer. Admiral Morrison looked at the star chart one more time.
Ow.
The Zephyrians were counting on them. Entire civilization was about to die unless the human fleet could get there in time. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. We are going to save the Zephyrians. We are going to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens innocent people. Engage warp drives. Let's go bring our friends home. The largest armada in human history disappeared into warp space, racing toward a distant world where people they had never met were waiting to die. The human fleet dropped out of warp space at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Justice, looking at the tactical display. The Korthok fleet was exactly where the intelligence reports said it would be. 23 massive ships hung in orbit around the beautiful crystal world of Zephyr Prime. Take us to stealth mode, ordered the Admiral. All ships activate cloaking systems. The human fleet vanished from sensors. This was technology they had developed during the Martian Wars, when they had to hide from superior enemy forces. Now it would help them study their enemy before the battle began. Captain Lisa Carter was aboard her ship, the UES Defiance, studying the Korthok vessels through long-range sensors. The enemy ships were huge, at least twice the size of human warships. They looked like floating fortresses covered in heavy armor and weapons. They're not very pretty, said Lieutenant Ben Parker, her tactical officer. Pretty doesn't win battles, replied Captain Carter. What can you tell me about their defenses? Heavy armor plating, multiple shield generators, and lots of big guns. But look at this. Ben pointed to his screen. They're not moving. They're just sitting there in formation like they're at a parade. Carter nodded. The Korthoks were confident. They had never faced serious resistance before. They expected the Zephyrians to surrender without a fight. On the UES Retribution, Commander Alex Rodriguez was studying the enemy formation with his crew. The Korthak ships were arranged in a perfect circle around the planet, with the largest ship at the center. That's their command vessel, said his intelligence officer. If we can take out their leader, the rest might fall apart, or they might get angry and start shooting at everything, replied Rodriguez. We need to be smart about this. Admiral, Morrison made a decision. Captain Carter, take a small team and make contact with the Zephyrians. We need to know what we're dealing with down there. Carter selected her best people for the mission. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Bell was a xenobiologist who specialized in alien contact. Chief Petty Officer Rick Thompson was a communications expert. Sergeant Mike Davis was a Marine who could handle any trouble they might face. They took a small stealth shuttle down to the planet's surface. The Zephyrian cities were beautiful beyond imagination. Crystal spires rose into the sky, glowing with soft light. The architecture looked like frozen music, with flowing curves and delicate details. The shuttle landed near the central command tower. As the humans stepped out, they saw their first Zephyrians. The aliens were tall and thin, with bodies that looked like living crystal. They moved gracefully, almost floating above the ground. Their faces were beautiful but strange, with large eyes that reflected light like gemstones. Commander Lyrith approached them carefully. She had never seen humans before, and they were nothing like she had expected. They were shorter than Zephyrians, but much more solid. Their bodies looked strong and powerful, built for survival. They wore armor that made them look like warriors. From an ancient legend, Captain Carter removed her helmet, revealing her face. She was young and had kind eyes, but there was something fierce about her expression. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but strong. Commander Lyrith, I'm Captain Lisa Carter of the United Earth Space Force. We received your message. Lyrith-esque crystalline body began to glow brighter with excitement. You came. You actually came. Came to help, said Carter simply. But we need to know what. We're up against. They were taken to the command center, where the Zephyrian leaders were gathered. Elder Vexan studied the humans with his ancient eyes. You are smaller than we expected, he said, but you feel dangerous. Lieutenant Commander Bell stepped forward. We understand you're a peaceful species. Can you tell us about your capabilities? We have healing technology and advanced computers, explained Lyrith. Our bodies can interface directly with electronic systems. But we have no weapons. We never needed them. Sergeant Davis looked at the tactical displays showing the Korthok fleet. How long until they attack? They gave us until tomorrow at sunset, said Lyroth. If we don't surrender, they will begin orbital bombardment. Meanwhile, high above the planet, the Korthok fleet commander was growing impatient. Warmaster Grathtok was a massive creature, over 9 feet tall and covered in thick armor plates. His species had evolved on a harsh world where only the strongest survived. He had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved millions of beings. Have the Crystal Singers responded to our demands? He asked his communications officer. No, Warmaster. They are still refusing to surrender. Grathtok laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Foolish creatures. They think someone will save them. Begin scanning for other ships in the system. The Korthok sensors swept the area around the planet. They found nothing. The human fleet remained hidden in the darkness of space, watching and waiting. On the planet's surface, Captain Carter was learning more about the Zephyrians. They were incredibly advanced in some ways, but completely helpless in others. Had technology that could heal any injury, and computers that could solve complex problems in seconds. But they had never built a single weapon. Your people are beautiful, said Carter. But beauty won't stop the Korthaks. We know, said Lyrith sadly. That's why we called for you. We heard that humans fight for others, even strangers. Carter looked around the command center. The Zephyrians were scared, but trying to be brave. They reminded her of her younger sister, who had always been too trusting and too kind for her own good. "We're going to stop them," she said firmly. "But we need your help? Can your computers interface with our systems?" "Yes," said Lyrith. "We can link our networks to yours." "What do you need? Everything? Ship positions, communication frequencies, tactical data? We're going to hit them hard and fast, but we need to know exactly where they are." As the Zephyrians began sharing their data with the human fleet, War Master Grathtok received a message that made him pause. His deep space sensors had detected a small energy signature near the planet. It was probably nothing, but he was a careful commander. "Increase sensor sweeps," he ordered, "and prepare a message for any ships that might be hiding in this system." The message was broadcast on all frequencies. "This is War Master Grathtok. Of the Korthok Empire? This system is under our control. Any vessels present have 1 hour to leave or be destroyed. We will not warn you again." On the bridge of the UES Justice, Admiral Morrison heard the message and smiled grimly. The Korthoks knew something was wrong, but they had no idea what they were facing. "All ships prepare for battle," he ordered. "In 18 hours, we show these bullies what happens when they threaten innocent people." The human fleet began moving into attack positions, still hidden by their cloaking systems. The Korthoks had given them a warning, but they were about to learn that humans don't scare easily. The battle for Zephyr Prime was about to begin. The battle began at exactly 6 o'clock hours when War Master Grathok's patience finally ran out. He had given the humans their warning, and they had not left. Now he would show them the power of the Korthok Empire. "All ships, begin orbital bombardment. Of the Crystal Cities," he ordered. "Destroy their buildings, but leave the population alive. We need workers for the mines." The massive Korthok guns began to charge up, their energy weapons glowing with deadly light. In 30 seconds, the beautiful cities of Zephyr Prime would be turned to dust. That was when Admiral Morrison gave the order that changed everything. "Ships, decloak and attack. Show them what Earth's children can do." The space around Zephyr Prime suddenly filled with human warships. They appeared from nowhere, their sleek hulls gleaming in the light of the twin suns. The Korthoks had expected to find empty space. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by the largest human fleet ever assembled. Captain Lisa Carter led the first attack wave. Her ship, the UES Defiance, screamed toward the nearest Korthok dreadnought at maximum speed. The enemy vessel was 3 times larger than her ship, but Carter had something the Korthoks did not have. She had experience fighting. Against impossible odds, "Target their weapons systems," she ordered Lieutenant Ben Parker. "Let's see how tough they are when they can't shoot back." The Defiance fired a full spread of missiles at the Korthok ship. The human weapons were smaller than the alien guns, but they were much faster and more accurate. 12 missiles slammed into the enemy vessel's weapon ports, causing massive explosions. The Korthok ship tried to turn and bring its main guns to bear, but it was too slow. Carter had already moved her ship to a new position and was firing again. Human ships were built for speed and maneuverability. They could dance around the heavy Korthok vessels like fighters around a big, slow bear. Commander Alex Rodriguez was leading his own attack on the other side of the Korthok formation. His ship, the UES Retribution, moved through the enemy fleet, like a shark through a school of fish. His weapons officer, Kelly Adams, was having the time of her life. "Target acquired," she reported. Firing railguns. The railguns were human weapons that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. They could punch through the thickest armor like it was paper. 2 rounds hit the Korthok cruiser in the engine section, and the massive ship began to drift helplessly. "Another one down," said Rodriguez with satisfaction. Next target. The Korthoks were starting to panic. They'd never faced an enemy like this before. The human ships were everywhere at once, hitting them from all directions. Korthoks tried to focus their fire on one human vessel. 3 more would attack from different angles. War Master Grathtok stood on his command bridge, watching his fleet fall apart. "Impossible," he growled. "How can such small ships do so much damage?" His tactical officer was studying the human attack patterns. "Sir, they're using coordinated strike tactics. They hit us, then move before we can respond. Our ships are too slow to keep up with them. Then we destroy them all at once," snarled Grathtok. "All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship, destroy their leader, and the rest will fall apart." The Korthoks had identified Admiral Morrison's ship, the UES Justice, and began focusing their attacks on it. Massive energy beams lanced through space, trying to destroy the human command vessel. But Morrison was ready for them. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Show them how a real warship moves." The Justice twisted and turned through the enemy fire like a dancer. Its pilot, Commander Janet Hill, had been flying combat missions for 15 years. She could make the big ship move like a fighter craft. "Sir, we're taking heavy fire," reported the tactical officer. "Shields are down to 60%. Then we get closer," said Morrison. "All ships, follow me in. Let's show these bullies what happens when they pick on innocent people." The human fleet closed in on the Korthok formation. At close range, the human advantages in speed and firepower became even more obvious. The Kortheks were used to fighting enemies who tried to run away. They had no idea how to deal with opponents who got more dangerous the closer they came. The battle reached its climax when the UES Courage, commanded by Captain Rick Thompson, was severely damaged by enemy fire. The ship's engines were failing, and its weapons were offline. It was drifting toward a Korthok dreadnought, helpless. "Captain, we need to abandon ship," urged his first officer. Thompson looked at his crew, then at the enemy vessel approaching them. Thought about the peaceful Zephyrians below who had asked for help from people they had never met. He thought about his duty as a human officer. "Negative," he said calmly. "Set collision course for their main guns." "Full power to engines, sir. That's suicide." "No," said Thompson with a smile. "That's making sure these bastards remember what happens when they threaten our friends." The Courage accelerated toward the Korthok ship. The enemy crew saw what was happening and tried to move away, but their ship was too big and slow. The human vessels slammed into the dreadnought's main weapon array, causing a massive explosion that destroyed both ships. The sacrifice of the Courage and her crew turned the tide of the battle. The other human ships fought even harder, inspired by their comrades' bravery. The Korthoks, who had never seen anyone willing to die for strangers, began to lose their nerve. Colonel Danny Walsh led the final phase of the battle. His Marines boarded the Korthok flagship using assault shuttles. The fighting inside the enemy ship was brutal in close quarters. The Korthoks were bigger and stronger, but the humans were faster and more determined. Sergeant Nina Foster planted explosive charges throughout the ship's command center, while Corporal Matt Johnson provided cover fire with his sniper rifle. The Marines fought through corridor after corridor, pushing deeper into the enemy vessel. "Colonel, we've reached the bridge," reported Sergeant Foster over the radio. "The Korthok commander is here." Colonel Walsh kicked down the bridge doors and found himself face to face with War Master Grathtok. The alien commander was massive, covered in armor and wielding a huge energy weapon. But Walsh had fought bigger enemies before. "You're under arrest for crimes against innocent people," said Walsh simply. Grathtok laughed. "You think you can defeat me, little human?" "I don't think," replied Walsh. "I know. The fight was brief, but intense." Grathtok was strong, but Walsh was faster and smarter. When the smoke cleared, the Korthok commander was on the ground. Defeated, with their leader captured and their flagship taken, the rest of the Korthok fleet began to retreat. The human ships pursued them to the edge of the system, making sure they left and never came back. The Battle of Kepler 442 was over. The Zephyrians were safe. The crystal cities of Zephyr Prime glowed brighter than ever before. The Zephyrians had survived. Their world was safe. The Korthok fleet was gone, scattered across the galaxy with news of their defeat. But the most amazing thing was not that they had survived. The most amazing thing was who had saved them. Commander Lyreth stood in her command center, watching the human ships in orbit above her world. These strange beings from a distant planet had risked everything to help people they had never met. She still could not understand why they had done it. Admiral Jake Morrison was in the main conference room of the Zephyrian capital, meeting with the alien leaders. The room was beautiful, made of living crystal that sang soft melodies, but Morrison was not thinking about the beauty. He was thinking about the future. "The Korthoks will be back," he said simply. "Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but they will return. They don't like losing." Elder Vexen nodded his ancient head. "We understand. That is why we want to ask you something important." "What is it?" "We want to join with humanity. We want to be your allies." Morrison was surprised. That Zephyrians were a peaceful people. They had no weapons and no armies. What could they offer humanity? Lirith seemed to read his thoughts. "We know we cannot fight like you do, but we have other gifts. Our healing technology can save human lives. Our computers can solve problems faster than anything you have. Our bodies can interface with any electronic system," added Elder Vexen. "We can teach you things about the galaxy that you do not know. There are other species out there who need help. Other planets where people are suffering." Morrison thought about this. Earth was still new to galactic politics. They had been focused on their own colonies and their own problems. But the Zephyrians knew the galaxy better than humans did.
What exactly are you proposing?" he asked.
"A partnership," said Lirith. "We will share our technology and knowledge.
With you, in return, you protect us and other innocent species from empires like the Korthoks." Captain Lisa Carter was also in the meeting. She had been thinking about the same thing. There are probably dozens of species out there facing the same threat the Zephyrians faced. Pirates, slavers, conquerors. Most of them probably don't even know humans exist. And if they did know, added Commander Alex Rodriguez, they probably wouldn't ask for help. Most aliens think we're too dangerous to trust. Morrison stood up and walked to the crystal window. He could see human ships and Zephyrian vessels working. Together in orbit, human engineers were helping repair damage to the alien space stations. Zephyrian healers were treating wounded human sailors in their crystal hospitals. "The galaxy is going to change," he said finally. "Word about this battle will spread. Every species will hear about what happened here. Some will be grateful, others will be angry. The Galactic Council will not like this," admitted Elder Vexen. "They prefer to avoid conflict, even when innocent. People are dying, and maybe it's time for a new council," said Carter. "One that actually protects people instead of just talking about it." 3 weeks later, Captain Carter was back on Zephyr Prime with a permanent human defense force. She had volunteered to stay and helped establish the new alliance. Her ship, the UES Defiance, was now part of a joint human-Sephorian defense fleet. Lieutenant Ben Parker was working with Zephyrian engineers to develop new defensive technologies. The aliens could interface directly with computer systems, while humans provided tactical knowledge and combat experience. Together, they were creating defensive systems that were better than anything either species could build alone. "Look at this," said Ben, showing Carter a new missile design. Zephyrians can guide these weapons with their minds, making them incredibly accurate. And we've given them human warheads that can punch through any armor. Carter smiled. "The next time someone attacks this system, they're going to get a very unpleasant surprise." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Morrison was dealing with the political aftermath of the battle. The Galactic Council had sent an angry message demanding that humans stay out of galactic affairs. Other alien species were asking questions about humanist intentions. But there were also new messages. Desperate pleas for help from species across the galaxy. At a mining colony under attack by pirates. A peaceful planet being invaded by slavers. A research station that had been captured by criminals. Morrison read each message carefully. Earth could not save everyone. They did not have enough ships or enough people. But they could help some of them, maybe if they showed the galaxy that someone was willing to fight for justice. Other species would join them. The first new mission came from a species called the Aquari. They were water breathers who lived on ocean worlds. Space pirates had taken over their main colony and were demanding tribute. The Aquari had no weapons and no way to fight back. "Send the Fifth Fleet," Morrison ordered. "And take some Zephyrian advisors with you. Let's show the galaxy that this alliance is real." 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, everything had changed. Humans were no longer seen as dangerous loners who stayed in their own corner of space. They were now known as protectors. The species you called when you needed help? The Human-Spherian Alliance had grown into something bigger. The Aquarii had joined after being rescued from pirates. The Centauri had renewed their old friendship with humanity. Even some of the smaller species in the Galactic Council were quietly sending messages of support. But the greatest change was in how humans saw themselves. They were no longer just explorers and colonists. They were guardians of the innocent, protectors of the weak. When someone cried for help in the darkness of space, humans would answer. Lirith stood in her command center, watching a new human patrol fleet depart for another rescue mission. These amazing beings had saved her people and changed the galaxy. But more than that, they had shown everyone that some things were worth fighting for. Her crystalline body glowed with pride and hope. The universe was a dangerous place, full of empires and pirates and creatures who lived by hurting others. But now there was something new in the darkness. There was hope, and that hope had a name: humanity. The age of human protection had begun. Across the galaxy, peaceful species looked up at the stars and knew that someone was watching over them. Someone who would come when they called, someone who would fight for them, even if they were strangers. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's guardians. The universe would never be the same.